My name is Tricia Phelps. You're here at the Marketing and Packaging Wholesale Essentials webinar. Thanks for being here. I really wish you all could meet each other in the chat, and I'm sorry that that's not working, but we've got a nice chunk of you, about 19 people here right now, from all over the country. So excited to have you here. We will take question and answers in the Q&A section now since the chat's not up and running. Feel free to do that throughout the course of the webinar. And we will leave time at the end for questions too. So if we can catch them in the middle, that's great. And we'll have space at the end to do that. All right. So with all that said, this webinar and many others like it across the spectrum of marketing topics that there are out there is brought to you by our team at Taste the Local Difference. TLD is a local food marketing agency. We specialize in strategies for farms, food businesses, and beverage producers. And we love working with passionate people like yourselves to help you help lift you up and accomplish your goals for your business. And like I said, my name is Tricia Phelps. I'm the CEO of Taste the Local Difference. I've been with TLD for about 12 years and in food and farming systems for 20 plus. I was a former farmers market manager before being with TLD. And like many of you, I'm a small entrepreneur. So I'm wearing many hats and very familiar with that. Taste Local Difference, we call it TLD, has grown from a 5-county program in northern Lower Michigan to a nationally recognized local food marketing agency during my tenure. And beyond that, I just love to talk about values-driven purchasing and consumer education and all of that stuff. So anytime you want to chat, please reach out. And I am really excited today to introduce you to my friend and packaging expert, Lisa Wallace, and I'll let her share some details about herself.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I also have found this little niche in the food and beverage and branding world, which is so fun. I always say that I took my two favorite things, grocery shopping and design, and found a way to combine them. Before starting my own business, I was a design director and all the things from intern to design director for years at big agencies and small agencies, and also a teacher at CCS where I went to college in Detroit. I taught some branding and packaging classes there, which I love to do. But day to day, like Tricia and all of you, also an entrepreneur. I had to leave that same wearing many hats because we all do. Personal side of things, I love some tea towels. I think they're a really fun way to bring design into a kitchen. So it still combines all my favorite things, but I have like a whole pantry full of tea towels, which is a fun thing. And my favorite thing is working. I love working with small businesses and farms because of the passion that comes from all the entrepreneurs. And what's really fun is to like dig into that and find the brand essence and then bring it to life creatively. You'll see as we talk about this, there's so much before getting to like, what does my brand look like? And that's the part I really like as well.
All right. So what we'll cover today is a handful of things, but starting out with why marketing matters when you're scaling, and digging into brand identity, like Lisa said, the specifics of brand and those details and kind of how it shows up in the world. And then we'll focus on some essentials and examples of packaging that sells. And we'll wrap it all up with the like marketing systems that are important beyond the packaging itself, and kind of how to use those systems to reduce risk in your business. All right. So as I said, we're going to dig into branding and packaging in this presentation, but I really wanted to start with like a step back and think about why marketing in general really matters in this moment as you're entering a new market or your business is growing itself. Um, and so let's just talk about marketing itself as being the way that you communicate with your customers. And at this stage, it's really, really important, as it is in most stages, but at a precipice like this, it's really important. And here are a few considerations I want to kind of throw out for you. Um, the first being that your branding should evolve with your business. And that doesn't mean it has to change visually, although it certainly could. Um, but it should grow with you as you are, learning more about your business, learning more about your customers, and kind of taking that feedback. So evolving could be a small evolution, but it could also be a transformative visual evolution. Your marketing channels and the systems and places you communicate with your customers also all work together. You don't have to and shouldn't say everything everywhere all at once. That can be confusing for folks. And instead, you want to be strategic and sort of consistent with that messaging in the various places that you show up. And we're going to kind of dig into those here in a minute. Um, and using those systems, using that strategic messaging and thinking of it as like a whole package allows you to save time and make earning revenue in this space a little bit easier. And lastly, the thing I want to call out again is that investing in this product development without investing in your market development, which really is what all this marketing effort does, is unnecessarily risky. We've had businesses show up with a massive amount of inventory and no market to sell to, or no money to invest in developing that market. And it's really simply too risky to put on the back burner. So we hope that you think of marketing as a part of your product, that it's all of it. It should be reflecting the same kind of care and intention that you put into developing the quality product itself. You put that same care and intention into identifying those customers and those places you're going to sell to and communicating with them. All right. So, what is a brand? Everything really starts here. Um, People often think that a brand is just your logo, so those visual cues that we see. Um, but actually, it's much more than that. It's the way your business kind of shows up in the world. Um, and again, entering a wholesale market doesn't mean you have to this it doesn't mean that this is necessarily the time it has to evolve, but it's also a really great opportunity to um, kind of align with everybody on your team what your brand is and what it means. What is that brand essence that Lisa's going to talk about in a minute? Because at this point, when you're entering that wholesale market or further developing that wholesale market, you're introducing yourself to a new set of people that might not know you. And so it's really important to be clear on what that means to you and like what that core center is. Because as the quote says here, your brand is not what you say it is, it's what they say it is. So really understanding that your customers also help dictate that. Your brand is your voice, it's your mission, it's your essence and your visuals and story, all of that bundled in. And it's also what your customers take away from that, what you do for them, what your product provides.
Real
So,
quick,
oh,
Tricia, this is a good example on the right, this mother farmer, because you have voice, you have image, and you have like your website system too. So in all of these, like imagine if the name was Mother Farmer, Farm Around and Find Out, and this like playful graphic that you have, and then it was a picture of the farmer, like really stoic and whatever, those two things would feel so off, right? So
mhm,
even just the imagery, like the illustration feels very like playful but also real. It's like there's so much going on at a farm, and then you see her and she's got her peace sign and she's fun and she's got her braids and her tractor. Like it all feels very real and fun. And like if I had to pick, I'm not super familiar with this brand. If I had to pick their essence words, I feel like I could just write looking at these three pieces. So
mhm.
that's when you know you have a good system of all of those pieces working together.
Yeah, awesome. And really, having that system and having it be so clear builds that trust and credibility and like recognition in the marketplace too.
So as Trisha was saying, um, I always love the creation of a brand. Some of you might already have your brands established. Some might be in the area where you're working on them and you're saying, what does it need to look like and sound like? But no matter where you are, you should be able to go back to your core and think of 3 to 5 words that describe your mission, your personality, your differentiators. These are going to be your essence words. These don't necessarily always talk about your product or your service. So imagine if I had salsa and I chose spicy as one of my essence words. You better have some like really playful, maybe like a little too far language or voice if that's going to be part of your brand. If it's not, then it's just a description of your food, right? So your essence words should be more emotional than they are tactical. It gets down to the like, why are you doing this? What makes you different? Why would I, as a human, want to connect with your brand as a personality in its own? So those core essence words, I always say 3 to 5 is like a really good amount because sometimes you can be more than one thing, but just to know what those essence words are is really important, and it's going to lead you through the rest of um, this system as well. How you show up would be your identity. So, how do those essence words come to life? That's through your identity. That's going to be your values, your mission, your voice, your logo system, not just one mark, but a logo system, colors, fonts, imagery, all that stuff Tricia was talking about. And then from there, it's kind of like you can imagine it as a flow chart or a family tree. You start with one thing, your system identity explodes a little bit, and then your expression and touch points. There's so many touch points as a brand that you have. It can be your direct, to your consumer, or it could be the person in the back of the store stocking the shelves. So we have to think about all of those people when we're thinking about the touch points. And are we communicating those same essence words in all of those touch points?
All right. So we've talked about how the brand might evolve and what it might look like if it needed to or if it needed to evolve in a big way. And as we're entering into the wholesale space, I think there's a lot more maybe art and science into brand development that than you may have had at the beginning of your business journey. And that's totally okay. I think it's important to recognize where you are in your business journey, right? Your logo may have been pulled together hastily just to get started, and that's totally fine. And this could be a great place and time to adjust that. The other thing that's happening right now is that throughout your time in business, maybe your goals have changed or your the customers have responded to your products in a way that you couldn't have predicted without being practicing in this space. And so that may your brand may need to evolve to kind of match those things that you've learned over the course of your time in business. And then simply in the wholesale space, your separation is growing between yourself, the maker, producer, and the end buyer. And so you won't always be the face, the person who is making the sale. So how can you adapt your brand to communicate that better for you? And again, just want to call out that this strong branding can really communicate quality before folks even taste it, and if it's strong and consistent, it demonstrates that consistency of product and quality and professionalism and trust just through that language and that messaging.
Sometimes when people come to me and they're like, this is going to be like it's going to cost a lot, or, my price point's going to be pretty high. So it needs to feel premium. Folks are always like, how do I add gold and how do I make it feel really fancy, right? But premium and quality come through like attention to detail, I always like to say. So there's some examples. in the presentation that we show that are super playful, and they also are some of the highest price points on the shelf and also the most playful branding. And you can see how just having that attention to detail and intentionality will make folks trust your brand and know that the product inside is going to be just as intentional and quality as the look.
Great. Um, okay, so um, another important note here is just that again, the whole idea of not having to say everything everywhere all at once is really important here, because your brand is going to show up. It should show up consistently, but like the message should show up consistently, but you're going to be showing up differently in different spaces. And these multiple touch points are really important to keep in mind, kind of understanding what you need to communicate where along the sort of sales process with an individual, or a customer. And we all know it. It's a busy, noisy world, and there are you really need a lot of these touch points to like get somebody's attention. And really, it's a minimum of 8 touch points, like minimum, to close a sale, for most folks. And this applies to like both the end customer, that's buying the product off the shelf, and the wholesale buyer and contract that you're trying to develop too. So there's sort of two elements to this. Um, and I think because of that, wholesale really has this, a little bit more complex decision making and purchasing journey, and visibility there. Like because of that, visibility is like really your brand awareness, your visibility is really key because you're not just selling it the one time, you're selling it twice. It has to leave their shelf to really sell. So we're going to be talking about this idea here in a minute, and with some more concrete examples of like um, how to communicate, like what to focus on in specific moments with your brand, and again, making sure you're not trying to communicate everything because people won't take that all away. You're communicating specific things in specific moments, and those different settings call for kind of like different communication styles. Um, and ultimately, they all work together, and that's the beauty of it.
Trisha and I were talking about how much we like systems, and this is very much, I think everything we're talking about is very systematic. Even looking at something like this that's like semi-infographic, right? Like imagine those essence words if you're thinking of your own, thinking of your brand and thinking like, what could my essence words be? Imagine them in your head up where it says brand identity. And all of these are just a handful of touch points that we pulled out, but all of these should be communicating those essence words in a different way. So a lot of times, the first impression that a consumer has with you or a wholesale buyer are your sales materials, your packaging or your menus if you're a food service, and your website. After that, building trust happens in some of those more human moments, like the farmer's market or customer service. Um, I was telling Tricia that one time I called Sorel boots because my boots broke, and there was Hawaiian music on the holds music, and I'm like, this is not Sorel boots, Hawaiian music. Like it was a silly touch point that maybe nobody else is putting together, but I'm like, it just didn't reinforce any of those essence words that I could imagine Sorel's are. So that's where you can build trust. That's where you can like keep coming back to people and they get familiar with you. And then staying connected is staying on top of people's minds would be things like merch that you might see people wearing out and about. It's like when you go to buy a vehicle and all you see after that is the vehicle that you want to buy. It's similar. If you see something, fed an ad on Instagram about one product, I swear I see merch for it like the next week. And it all just kind of makes you feel like, closer to that brand. And then, of course, email and social media, we're all on our phones all day and just staying connected and staying on top of mind. Again, communicating those essence words, but all in a different way or different time in somebody's journey with your brand. So if we pulled out a few of those, we'll look at the farmer's market, for instance. The farmer's market's very human. It's much more informal, right? It might be me and my brand standing there telling a story. I might change how I say it or how it comes across, or depending on who I'm with, right? It's all of the same essence words, but it's how do I connect with the people that are there in front of me? So it's very human and very informal. And you're doing a bit of storytelling of how you got to this place. Your website, I don't know a ton of people who just scroll on websites just for fun. People are looking for stuff, right? So it should be very informational, should be very structured, and it should be very clear. It can still be fun. It just should, at the base of it, be those things that feel like I'm here for a reason. I'm able to find what I'm looking for. And then on shelf, you have to be quick. People are scanning shelves. There's hundreds of products. You have like 5 seconds. They're scanning and they're standing 6 feet away. I should make a little like 5, 6, 7 kind of a moniker to go with this, but really, you're standing at a shelf. Think about all the things you're looking at, and imagine if you're looking at something, squint your eyes, and that's pretty much how you see it from 6 feet away. So you have to be quick, you have to be competitive, and you have to have clarity of like, what is this thing that I'm looking at? So you could be really creative, but if you're not super clear on what it is or standing out from the rest of the competition, it's probably going to go unseen. So in all of these spaces, the things that you have to think about is farmers market, you want to be engaging with folks. The website, you want to be organized, and the shelf, you want to be concise with that same message, but all being a different way of ingesting it. I'm using a lot of food puns and I don't mean to. It's just
It's the right place for it.
yeah. So if we get into packaging a little bit more, at the basic, at the minimum, your packaging has to describe your product, has to appeal to people and stand out, like we talked about. It has to engage folks. You could have the tastiest product and food in the world, but if no one grabs it off the shelf, they will never know that. It'll just sit in those boxes or cans or jars. Um, you have to engage somebody. You have to get somebody you want to pull it out and read the other sides or the back or anything like that. You have to be FDA compliant because nobody's doing that unless you're like in meat or alcohol. But other than that, nobody's checking, but you need to be FDA compliant in case things happen and there's recalls and things like that. And then you have to have a system. We're going to talk a lot about growing, but a system, again, our favorite thing. You can imagine how a system can help you grow and bring that trust. I guess we're talking about trust a lot today too, because it does allow a customer to know that that's the same company. I liked this one product from somebody, so I'm probably going to like this other one, and I know that because it looks the same, it sounds the same, and it feels the same, has the same essence to it.
All right. So before we dig a little bit deeper into the packaging, I did want to take a second to talk about the like physical packaging itself, the clamshell, the box, the can, and make sure folks are thinking through before either entering the space or thinking about new products, thinking through the cost and the return on investment, how quickly you might recoup that investment, because packaging can sometimes be more expensive than the product itself. A person that might assist you with this type of like selecting the best packaging is a packaging engineer, and that type of that person individual is someone who focuses more on the like technical and functional structural aspects of the package itself, like what's going to protect the product, what's most cost effective, is it safe for that type of food product, those types of things. And on the flip side of that, there are packaging designers who are more focused on like the aesthetics and the branding that we're talking about, the like science of consumer engagement and marketability, and making sure, as Lisa said, the like they're up to date on the labeling requirements and those types of things to make sure it's done right. Um, so whether you speak with a packaging engineer or individual who's like specialized in the physical packaging itself first, or a designer first, it's really up to you. Sometimes designers can be really helpful in thinking through like creative ideas for what type of packaging you might want to select, but you definitely want to have both in this conversation. And just like we're talking about with like design systems, the visuals of the labels and packaging themselves, there should also be systems for the like physical packaging itself. You know, if you look at an example here of like Few Hills clamshells with the spring mix and baby kale and shoots and leaves, like these are different types of products. They've built out this sort of scalability in the design that shows you that they're different products, but they're of the same brand. And also they're using economy of scale for their packaging itself. It's all clamshells. It's all the same size. They're able to cut down on cost and waste by thinking that through, like both functionally and aesthetically at the same time.
A really good example of all of this is Graza olive oil. I feel like most folks have seen this before, but they came with this hero product. They said, we're going to put it in a new kind of packaging. Like, what makes it easier for folks to use than a squeeze bottle, right? But when you think about premiumness of olive oil, it's always been in glass with these like gold screw off tops that are not really great when you're trying to cook and you have a bunch of stuff happening. So there's like, we're going to be innovative in this way that we deliver the olive oil. It's also super playful. Nothing else in the olive oil space was at the time or is. So they really made a name, a look, and uh, the structure of the actual packaging made a big leap when you're looking at it 6 feet away for 5 seconds. You're seeing this, right? You're seeing this bright green, which isn't normal in that area, and a squeeze bottle. So it's like, oh, great. It became iconic in the space. If you go to the next page, then they're like, well, we have this olive oil that's great for cooking. Let's make one that's great for salad dressings and things like that called drizzle. So now they have this system of naming as well. Also, illustration. There's one that's cooking, and then there's one that's like, I just need some olive oil straight on something. You understand that from the illustration. Then they went further and they said people really need a hot one. We're going to call it frizzle. So it's for high heat use. And we're also going to do it in an like not aerosol, but the better, spray, because that's another way that people need to use it a lot. That's convenient. And we want to give them great olive oil in this other container as well. Then if you go to the next page, they said, well, people don't want to waste a lot of plastic, so let's give them cans. It's also cheaper on their end to produce these cans and label them and fill that. So it's a refill for them. Again, illustration fits. The whole system is there. They also looked at like, I'm going to call it the box wine version of olive oil. If you really use a ton of it, what does that look like? Again, the illustration is a face. It looks like you're like guzzling olive oil and still fitting with the look and the color system. They've since grown to make aioli. If you go to the next page, Tricia, they also have potato chips. And now their brand is so strong, and their system is so strong that these other companies, Ithaca and Firehook, have both partnered with them. And I saw this olive oil at Costco from like a mile away. I was like, oh, that's Graza. The colors led me there first. And then, of course, the illustration brought me in. And then Firehook, great combo as well. I also saw it could have been an April Fool's joke, but like a martini made, it was like a dry martini made with Graza olive oil. So they did so much front end work thinking about that first container and that first look at the brand and the language. And has now taken them to like so many different partnerships, so many different aisles in the store, but we all know what it is because they had that system thought about beforehand. And again, if you sat and you said, what are the 3 to 5 essence words of this, you could really pinpoint it so easily after looking at all of this, right? It's playful. I don't like saying quality for an essence word because who doesn't think that their product is quality? But there's like a trueness to it, I guess, with like the olive oil. Like you see the ingredients in it. So I would say it's like really ingredient focused. It's playful and it's quality, like not even quality. It's the easy to use. How would I say that better? Like an emotional way of like convenient, but in
Mhm.
a high quality way. So um that all comes across in every single one of these touch points, not just their olive oil. Um, some of the things they had to do. So In the beginning, they're thinking of that structure like we want a squeeze bottle, we want it to be really bright and playful. Oh, and we also have to adhere to all of these rules. So, putting that all together in a packaging probably sounds overwhelming right now, and you're like, I don't want to even go wholesale after this. But it's just knowing all of the information that has to go where, and then being creative with it and being smart with it. So this is just a quick like more technical aspect of packaging, but all things that I want everyone to think about so that you don't get in trouble down the road and don't get turned down by a wholesaler because you don't comply with these. Um, the front of your packaging is called the principal display panel. The things that are required are your statement of identity. So you might say something really fun like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Um, they could have said like liquid olives, right, on the olive oil, but you technically have to have a statement of identity that says olive oil somewhere on the packaging. And you have to have your net weight and it has to be a certain size and in both measurements. So that you have to have. Other suggested things would be obviously your branding and any selling points that you want to put on the front. But remember, you have 5 seconds, 6 feet away. So you don't want to overload the front either. And then if you look at the panel to the right, that's the information panel. That's where your nutrition facts, if you sell over 100,000 um, pieces, you have to have a nutrition fact on there. You always have to have ingredients and allergens. There's 16 allergens. I really should have double checked my numbers, but I believe it's 16 allergens now that you have to have in bold if they're in your product. And then you have to have the address of your commercial kitchen where this came from. Along with any of that might be warnings about if it's a shared kitchen, and they have nuts or gluten or something. That is all volunteer. Like you can put that if you want to. Some people like to, and some people don't put it on there because it's not required, but it's something about, if you're in a shared kitchen, you have to have some warnings, things like that. So there's some things that you should ask either MDARD, if you're in Michigan, it'd be MDARD. They can look at your labels and make sure it has everything, but we just want to keep all of that in mind when you're creating your packaging as to not overflow it with all this brand stuff and forget that you have to have all this other things. Anything else would be a barcode. If you're going wholesale, you'll have to have that, a brand story, and any product attributes. So um, imagine this is like I tried to put out the required and the suggested so that you can say, okay, I know I have to have X, Y, and Z. What else can I fit on there? If you have a tiny little spice jar or something, you're gonna put. I always start packaging by like putting the requires on there and then adding anything branded into that. Which there's fun ways of doing that. Imagine you have to have a recycled language on there. Make it fun. McClure's, we use this pack of pickled peppers, or no, sorry, for the address. We have this pack of pickled peppers with packed at, and then the address of the warehouse, right? So it can still have some brand to it, even if you're doing some of these required pieces.
Lisa, we got one question in the Q&A
Mhm.
related to what you said, and Lori asks, for the packaging, is it 1,000 or 100,000 pieces for nutrition facts or $100,000 in sales?
Believe it's $100,000 in sales, but I'm gonna share both the nutrition facts as well as the FDA requirements, and it'll be in there too. I'll highlight it in there so everyone can see. But I believe it's $100,000 in sales. Um, I'm going to share another example like Graza. I'm picking two that are very playful brands, but I think both of these brands made a difference in the area that they're in the market space that they're playing in. So, and they have a great system. So we'll go through this and talk about those core essence words, their identity, and then also the touch points. And Tricia will go into further into like how their example of touch points can help you with yours moving forward. So Goodles, they're healthy noodles. They don't look healthy, right? Sometimes people get stuck in like, well, I'm a healthier noodle, so I need to be brown, tan, craft paper, right? All of these things that like we used to think meant organic. But now the premiumness and the healthness is now just like how people live, right? We want better products, we want better food. And so having a brand that feels intentional is going to get people to do that. So This is their identity, parts of their identity. They have their full logo at the top. They have some of these little icons they use, and their tagline, Noodles Gooder. If we look at the next page, this is on their website. This is their story, and you can pick out their essence words from the look and then from reading this too. I'll just read through this really quickly. Our story begins where we were born, Santa Cruz, California. A little weirdness, a lot of joy, 100% gooder. A brand like Goodles could only come from here. And we're out to share that feeling with everyone, one little noodle at a time. For us, it's the little things that have the biggest impact, those moments of weirdly joyful magic that we can create in the world. The big belly laugh, petting a doggy, roller skating, unicorn stuff that makes us just feel gooder. These moments are everywhere, making a tastier, weirder, happier world. At Goodles, we're out to celebrate everybody who can make them happen. So nowhere does it say health in here. Really, they only talk about their product once. They say noodles. But this is very much of why they're doing what they're doing. They grew up in a weird place. They wanted to bring a little bit of weirdness, goodness. And I think the fact that they're talking about like the weirder, happier world, it has like a bigger meaning and message. If you go further on their website, they talk about their giving back program and they help people in Santa Cruz specifically um, that don't have access to good food. And then they talk about like winning in a clean award, but it says like winner noodle dinner or something like that. Like they bring their brand into all of these things that are very serious and very good accolades, but they're bringing this like silly, weird, playful brand to it. So keep this kind of essence in mind as we look at the next piece, which is their packaging. So they started with the cheddar mac, the Chetty Mac in the middle. They have this like weird, good essence. So the weird comes through in the names, I would say. Twist My Parm, Shella Good, Chetty Mac. I'm looking at all the things on the left. And then the good is coming through of like, look at that like drip of cheese coming down. It feels really nice. And then they have this like nostalgic play. They talked about the past when they're looking at their mission statement, but also this is like what we all used to have as a kid. But now as we're an adult, we might want it like something that has protein or vegetables in it. And so this does. So it to me, this whole brand has a nostalgia aspect to it as well. So if everyone can squint their eyes and look at the packaging on the left, like what you see first is the contrast with the Goodles. You see the logo and or you see the fork with the pasta on it. Both of those things are great things to be pulled out. Then once you get in close, you're like, oh, what a fun name. Like what fun colors, what fun names they have. And then if you take your eye from the top down to the name, down to the goodness, and then you have all of these like really subtle, small 14 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber. So you're taking somebody, you're engaging them from the first 5 seconds they're looking because of the color and because of that ooey gooey, like mac and cheese. And then you're engaging them by looking at the front with the has some health things. They're turning it, and you can see on the left side they have all of those attributes of how the noodles are made. So this is a great one of getting you to pull it off the shelf and engage with it. They now have moved to these cups, like the Velveeta ones, where you just pour water and microwave. So they have those, and then they're like, well, people just want to make their own noodles. They like these noodles because they have all these great benefits. How do we grow into a space and go into a different space where it's just the pasta? So they stuck with this pink color, but it's still the same system. It's still a really fun name. It's still that same logo, just a different color variation. And they're still showing the product, but what this is an actual cutout in the packaging. And what I think is smart about this is that people want to see like you always think a healthy noodle is going to be like really dark and tough looking, and this just looks like every other noodle. So that was their play into showing the ooey gooeyness like they did on the first, their system of the noodles to show the actual noodle, raw noodle. Um, so they all have very much a system here. If you go to the store now, you can probably, I would guess 12 different flavors they have in the boxed mac and cheese. But they started with that Chetty Mac. They quickly went to Twist My Parmesan Good, and then everything came out of that. So as you're going to market, I would say to say you have 16 products, don't go to market with 16 products. It's expensive. It's a lot to buy barcodes for all that, let alone like market all of those differently or together. And it doesn't allow for you to build trust with somebody and then excite them by bringing something new in. So, 3 to 5 is always a really safe number of SKUs to go to market with. And then you have all of these other SKUs in your back pocket to excite people once you have them liking your product and trusting your brand. And then this is that same brand with the same nostalgia, playful. What else did I say? Nostalgia, playful, and weird. Um, and good, I would say. They are at Expo West, or they were at Expo West. This is their booth here in the back. It's all shag carpet, the most nostalgic thing. At the end here, they had a ball pit, and the balls were noodles. And then and everyone that worked there had these like patched old army coats on, which was fun. And then the TikTok content on the right is showing this partnership they did. So part of the good that they're doing in the world is connecting you with other brands that are doing good. So you could get a charm bracelet at the Goodles um, uh, spot, and then you could go to like 8 other brands and you'd get a little charm to go on it. So charm bracelets are super nostalgic. They're really playful. They get you to engage with other people, and you're now engaging with these other brands that they want to support as well. So they're spreading good, not just in their own booth, but in the whole store, in the whole expo. And it's just like such a fun, engaging thing for people. So you might think like, I just need a pull-up banner that has my logo on it, and that's my trade show thing. But really think about how you can engage people in a way that fits with your essence, and that's going to build that trust for them to come back and buy more of your products.
All right. So, now I know Lisa and I love to talk about marketing and systems, and I know not everybody loves spending their time on marketing, but I do want to think about it this way, that when you build these marketing systems, time isn't wasted. You can replicate content, you can build efficiencies that save you time, you can engage with real relationships with people, eliminate labor costs, and even, like sell your product while you're sleeping if you have some of these things in place, right? So these are huge time savers. They're a system that works together. And if these are on lock, it allows you to do the things that you really want to do, right? Um, you're able to keep doing the things that you want to be doing. And I recognize that for most of our clients, that's the production side of thing. That's, what's most important to them. And it's why you're kind of doing this in the first place. So those systems that we're going to be chatting about briefly here, and I know I'll be watching the clock for some time to make sure we've got time for questions. But we just talked about packaging. There's sell sheets, the website itself, branded email templates for communication, thinking through invoicing and delivery from a brand and scale point of view. And then again, that like idea of being top of mind, these ideas for seasonal campaigns to remind folks that you're there. So first and foremost, like a critical piece of trust building is your website. It's really not a like nice to have anymore. It's a need to have. It establishes your credibility. It makes you visible in the digital world. And it really does, as Lisa called out, the space is organized. It's like a central hub for all of your marketing efforts. It really is able to communicate a lot at once through these different pathways of how the user explores it. Um, so your website should be user-friendly and branded. It, in this case, should certainly include any wholesale information and like clear product descriptions that you have. And a great tool to use is to integrate e-commerce in it. So you can also simplify reorders or increase your efficiency there. Again, the key to this being that it's available 24/7. You don't always have to be there, but the website is there. It can make those sales for you, can have those conversations and be that point of awareness. On top of that, with the like right analytics in place and that type of thing, you can learn a lot from consumer behavior on your website, where they go, where they navigate to, what they click, and better understand your messaging and the way you put it out into the world. So Well, the website is building like that trust and credibility. Email marketing is a really important tool for like building customer loyalty. It's again through those like regular touch points where you're generating awareness and like reputation for your brand. Um, and when done right, you're really like nurturing and strengthening a relationship with either a current customer or a future customer. So I've got a couple of things listed here, but kind of that like first impression, first pitch. You're really communicating your professionalism, maybe answering some like common questions that you get. And even you could add value here with materials for your, wholesale customers of your story and farm, a farm bio or a producer bio or things of that nature that can again help get it off their shelf and into a consumer's hand. The second idea here being that email newsletters don't have to be completely original new content that you haven't used somewhere else. In fact, they're a really great way to generate short snippets of information that might appear in other places. So repurpose it for your about section on your website or repurpose the about section into an email newsletter. Use little snippets on social media and that type of thing. And again, this sort of helps you build that brand loyalty and repeat purchases. And then last but not least, don't forget about automations. This is a huge time saving way to like streamline your efforts here. Maybe it's a like automatic email after you've made a sale, or maybe it's sending something, based on their delivery reminders or reorder notices or things of that nature that can save time. You can set them up, you can include specific information, and then you can kind of set it and forget it and let that work for you. um, so for this space, I know some folks don't want to deal with the transaction fees or online processing, but there are really simple ways to build these costs into your pricing, or even just provide like the cheapest ways for people to pay online, and give businesses the choice to pay an additional fee if they want to use a credit card or that type of thing. Um, the most important thing here is that like money in the door, a dollar in the door is worth much more than all the effort to track it all down later down the line. So thinking this through in advance and having those systems set up before you get into this space where you're chasing down invoices is really important. And again, that idea of reordering, like how does this first sale lead into another one? I think is really important to ask yourself too, like how can people reorder anytime they want or only at certain times? And how do you communicate to this? How do you communicate this to people and how do you remind them on a regular basis?
This is probably going down another rabbit hole, but even subscription methods are so smart now because it's easy on your end and it's easy on their end. It's a convenience for both to have product they need and sales for you. So that's something. Is this something that someone's going to go through in a month where you could do an automatic
Yeah.
reorder?
Yeah. All right. And when it comes to delivery, I know not everybody includes or is doing the delivery themselves. You may run through an aggregator or distributor yourself. But if you are doing delivery, make sure it's a process that's sustainable for you. Make sure you're valuing your time, because your time spent in the car is time not spent elsewhere. And so make sure that's you really factor that into the cost of everything here too. Um, I also want to call out that like branding from start to finish really helps generate that next sale that I was talking about. So like it's a it may sound simple that like having a t-shirt with your business's name on it makes a difference, but it can be as simple as that or as robust as a branded delivery van. But those are reminders of your business. They're like consciously or unconsciously helping to build the reputation of your brand, helping folks become familiar with you and your brand to be visible.
A good example quickly of this is McClure's. We cold called McClure's because a local store was using their craft boxes and making a display out of them, and then they had their product in them, but there's no branding on it, right? We're like, you're missing this whole area of free advertising, really. And they were like, well, we just get our jars that our pickles are go in, take out the jars, fill them with pickles, put them back in, and write with a Sharpie what's on there. And we're like, let us do a one color box. It was not super costly. Um, let's do a one color box and have this branding on it. And then people used it as displays even more. People in the back of the store were like, this is wonderful. We made tape of what variety of pickle was in there. So they could just put a tape. They weren't reading, chicken scratch. So it was all this stuff is like just a really cheap way to be more uh, brandable, but also it worked as a display without even paying for a display. So.
Mhm. Love that. All right. And lastly, here again are some like considerations to keeping your product like fresh and top of mind. I know that you're busy. We just talked at the start, entrepreneurs are wearing so many hats and incredibly busy. But whether you're working with an agency or planning these campaigns yourself, if you think about them strategically, like paired with your production schedule or your delivery schedule and how you build in marketing time into that, that can help it really keep that manageable. Um, and I think making sure it's kind of like what Lisa said about like not coming out with all 16 products at once, even if you've got that many ideas. You want to be new and top of mind too. So creating these either quarterly or seasonal campaigns that kind of bring your message back up to the top of their awareness and highlight new products or limited runs or promos. Those can really help you again, like break through the noise. I also want to say too that like a little bit of that strategy work now, even thinking through what are those seasonal campaigns? Not you don't have to write them right this minute, but like what are you going to do? Um, will remove a lot of that mental load later when you're like in the thick of things. It'll make it a lot easier if there's a little bit of planning of that system right now. Okay. So next steps, and then we have a resource, and we'll stop for questions. We can go a little bit, or I can personally go a little bit over the 2 o'clock hour if folks want to stay on. But here's some ideas about next steps for you, and I'm going to let Lisa lead this.
Yeah. A lot of times we're so stuck. I think there's a saying that's like if you sometimes you're too inside the bottle to see the label, something like that. Um, go out to grocery stores and see who you'd be on the shelf next to. Like it's easy to look up their website and see that, but look at the shelf. Like there might be some other local people that you didn't realize have wholesale products, or there might be somebody that rebranded that you haven't seen yet. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was out there. So go down the aisle that you would be in and look at that space, do the 5 second pan, and then look closer and see those products. But also go down other aisles to look at messaging, to find inspiration, to see who stands out and what they're doing differently from everyone else, even if it's a different category. I was telling Tricia I did a probiotic soda. And so I went down the yogurt aisle because that's like the main people think probiotics and they think they need yogurt or sauerkraut. So like what are those people saying about gut health? Also I went down we went and looked at like CBD cigarettes. They're taking something that's inherently unhealthy, smoking, and making it healthy with CBD. So, how do we take pop that's unhealthy and make it healthy with probiotics? What does that look like? So, find someone that's solving a similar problem as you are and look at what they're doing and saying and how you can stand out. Not copy it, but how you can be different and stand out. Review your current marketing materials and clarify your brand essence. So, like I said, some of you might have a ton of materials. You might have this brand already, but go back and see if the things that you want your essence to be are truly coming forward. You might even be able to ask some, consumers that you're like current customers that you're close with, what 3 words would you describe my brand as, or our, not our product, but our brand? Like, how would you describe us? And just see if those are align with how you feel it should be or what you want it to be. And if not, figure out how to evolve that a little bit. Um, And then this, I think, Tricia, is
Mhm.
your wholesale marketing systems.
Yeah, so of those things that we talked about, kind of what do you have that's supportive? What is missing? And maybe creating a short-term plan to fill in those gaps um, before pitching. If you're entering into the market in particular, like thinking through start to finish, first sale to repeat sale, like um, how are you filling in those gaps? All right. With that, I've got a little resource for you here. It's our wholesale readiness checklist. I'll share this link in the. Oh no, we don't have a chat. Shoot. I'll share it out. We'll send this email to all of you who registered too of the recording of this session and these links too, to make sure you've got it. But feel free to take a peek there, and then we'll stop here for any questions. We've got our contact information on the slide as well. And I know Lisa was going to send out some PDFs and stuff. We'll include that in our follow-up email. So,
Also, Lori asked the question about the sales, and I clarified. I Googled, and it's 100,000 units in a year sold. There's also an employment thing. You have to have under 100,000 units and under 100 full-time employees. So, if you have over 100 full-time employees but less sales, I think you still have to have your nutrition facts on there. But consumers like to see nutrition facts. I would always, if it's a resource you have to get those tested, I would put them even if you don't need them because a lot of people put a lot of trust in them.
all right. In the Q&A, Neza asks if the recording will be available, and yes, we will send that out. I'm guessing tomorrow or certainly by the end of the week, we'll send that out with these resources too. Allison is sharing, I've established my cheese company 15 years ago. In 2020, we started using exclusively farmstead milk. I've also recently received national publicity and won an international award. I haven't changed my logo since 2011 and don't know how to convey the changes as my cheese is on more shelves without a cheesemonger. Any insights, Lisa?
Yeah, I would say not to think about changing your logo to include those things, but changing some of the messaging either on your packaging or your sales materials. Think about who would uh the farmstead milk would be something that consumers would really like to hear. I think the awards, while they're really great for like your website or things at like your farmers market, maybe the packaging is not the right place to see them because it's such a small package and so much information. That could be something that's on your sales material because wholesalers would really like that. It's like, oh, other people, these are going to be bought because they're great products, they taste good without even tasting them. Those awards show. Um, that they're good and good products. So I don't think you have to think about your logo. If your logo still works, if there's equity in your logo, I don't think it's about changing your logo. I think it's about changing some of the messaging and all those other touch points that Tricia and I talked about.
Awesome. Um, let's see. Keegan's asking, is that 100,000 per unit or total units? I have more than one.
It's per product. So if you sell more of this SKU, your first SKU, if you sell 100,000 of those, then you have to have nutrition facts.
And a follow-up to his, can you recommend a packaging engineer?
Depending on what the material is, I have quite a few different resources if you want to reach out to me. I have some great uh, corrugate engineers, and I actually have a glass person as well. Um, so if you want to reach out to me, I can share those if you tell me what kind of material you're looking at.
Awesome. And Keegan, Lisa's email is right there on the slide too, if you need that. Lori, would a store ever consider purchasing an item wholesale from a business that is not required to have nutrition details on the label?
I know some products that are in store that don't have nutrition facts. Again, it's more of a trust with the consumer. And if you think about it ahead of time. Imagine you do this label and you don't put your nutrition facts on it, and then it blows up, and then you have to redo all of your packaging, right? You're not able to order as many to make the cost cheaper for ordering in bulk and all of those things. So it might be something to, I have a client that does seasonings, and you don't have to. It's like technically could be cottage law. You don't have to put your nutrition facts. She's a chef, and she also is in the wholesale food world. And she's like, I'm putting them on no matter what because it just is safer. People trust it. And there's just all these benefits to it. The only benefit of not doing it is, I guess, the time and the cost of getting your nutrition facts tested. But there's resources out there that can help local foods do that for very cheap, if not free.
All right. I think those are all the questions we've got. Thank you, everyone.